Cold calling has never been dead. It just goes through cycles. The content is king. Without inspiration and education that someone can read or watch or listen, no one's going to know you're out there. You still need to have an unbelievable content game. We've even taken that a step further and provided frontline sales development training for the leaders. A lot of SDR leaders have never been formally trained on anything. With one go-to-market engineer today, that one role is going to make 5 SDRs punch like they're 25. Each one will be able to punch above like they are 5 individuals because of all the automation.
Craig, once you're done with your mastication, we can get going.
That's actually funny because I used to sell titanium dental implant systems to oral surgeons, and they would place these titanium screws in people's pie holes so they could eat better. And that's where I learned the term mastication.
That's amazing.
Do you need any implants, Craig?
No, thank God. Okay. I do not, but I know where to get them now.
Yeah,
I guess,
exactly.
Only floss the teeth.
I eat fast, and it can be shocking. I remember Lars and I were at God, it was a long time ago. It doesn't seem, time flies, and we got sandwiches, and he just laughing hysterically while I ate my sandwich in 1 minute. He was dude.
You leave a bunch of it on your sweater and on your sleeves.
Yeah. All over the place, yeah. But I mean, the most important thing is, I remember that day you were dying. Oh my God. By the way, you guys, I didn't bring a something to wear, but I do have these glasses. Your guys' thoughts? Maybe this works or?
Yeah.
No?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Join the glasses crew today.
By the way, Lars, you're looking good, buddy. The workout regimen,
Jesus.
my God, Jesus Christ! Look at this dynamo, man. This guy.
Feeling good, Biff. Yeah. Well, when you punch out and prioritize health and wellness, six days a week I'm working out, so it feels great.
And the tan and this Hawaiian shirt.
You know what? We're canceling the show, man. He's making us. I mean, this guy, he's looking great. Or we do a redirect on the show, and it's more of a male model type of thing. Adult model.
Stop.
He's looking like Stephen Brody right now in his Hawaiian shirt, just shredded and tanned.
You guys are just buttering me up. I've got so much history with both of you. I can't. No, we're not pushing this. We're going deep.
Yeah, we're gonna go deep. We're going deep. From ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
For the listeners of the transaction, we have a literally one of my oldest friends in the business. It's a pleasure to have this guest. He is literally one of the OGs of sales development. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
And our connection was we were both mentored by a guy named Stu Silverman, who, as I say to everyone, if your name's Stu Silverman, you have one choice in life, and that is to be a guru of something, anything, right? Mm-hmm. And so, he went to MIT, right, or Harvard Business School, didn't he? Lars, he's a crazy, brilliant guy. He worked for Henry Kissinger. Decides to come to the Valley. He builds the original SDR teams at Cisco, Sun, DEC, all this shit. And then he was a consultant. And he had worked with Lars at Portal, I think.
Yep.
And then I was working for him as a consultant, and then we crossed paths at a company called Wrapped, where there are lots of funny stories of my first introduction to Lars's old boss there. Some incredible stuff. We'll see if we get to that. But over the years, Lars has he's grown with the industry. So at Portal, he was one of the OGs in SDR, and he could tell you that was not easy. Back in those days, it's so hard for these young folks to understand. We had to convince the market that an SDR was the right thing. It wasn't no-brainer, the sort of pipeline generation. And then as the industry started to grow, Lars continued to evolve, right? So in some of his most remarkable work lately was, I still quote some of the things he did at Cloudera. That epic sort of real high-tech, hardcore high-tech outbound, like trying to get to CTOs and whatnot, doing amazing stuff there. And then at Snowflake, I think Lars tried to retire, build his own business. Then he got drawn back into Snowflake, brought his guys in there. And they did like incredible stuff there. I mean, like the SDR Academy, I spoke there a couple times. It was just incredible shit. So this guy is the OG and one of the masters of the universe in sales development and in sales, inside sales and business, and clearly very fit. Today's guest on the transaction, Lars Nilsson. There we go. How about that intro?
Yeah, that was a good one.
I nailed that shit.
Nailed it.
Nailed that.
That was a proper intro.
I mean,
Well,
this guy's, he's a legend.
Well, you're wearing a shirt that says proper.
No. I mean, Stu Silverman, Annika Seeley, Trish Bertuzzi, MJ Schutte, Sally Doobie. I mean, these are the women and people that all came before us, Craig, and they were the ones, in my opinion, that kind of innovated on inbound, outbound, and I drafted in on a lot of their prior success. But yeah, I when I punched out at Snowflake mid last year, I think I have 25 years of SDR leadership under my belt, and I've loved that role. I've loved that function, and I've helped a few companies grow through different various financings and into public companies, and it's just been a joy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love having you on the show, man. We Matt and I deliberately delayed you a bit, and now it's perfect timing. You should next time tell everyone you're coming in from Costa Rica or something like that, because it looks like it. So here's how we like to start the show. So we have two questions overall, right? And I'm leading with number one, which we call the Matt Amundson Feature Enhancement 2.1a. And that is, we want to lead with a story. So or more, whatever, however many stories you want to do up front. But like the idea is like, what's a great go-to-market story to tell the audience? It could be funny, it could be ridiculous, or it could be, heartwarming or heroic, whatever you want to do. We just leave that really wide open and start with that. So talk to us, Lars. What do you got for us?
Yeah, well, as I was kind of going through my walk this morning and preparing mentally, when I think of the start of my career, which, I graduated from UC Santa Barbara in 1988, 89. I got my first gig, in college with Xerox Corporation. And as I look back on my career now, that's 37 years in the making, I got to see what truly great looked like in so many different ways working for that company, right? Interviewing, onboarding, enablement, training, frontline leadership, second line directorship, C-level. I mean, Xerox in the 70s and 80s, like IBM, I mean, that's, if you wanted to be trained by the very best and work for the very best, those were the two companies. And when I got into the Valley with Portal in 1997, or actually, 1995, it was the go-go days. There was no one that came out of those two companies that were building startups. And the cool thing for me, when I got into high tech, there was no one who had any formal training in sales, unless you came from Oracle. And, as you mentioned, I worked for Kevin Mosier and got to drop right into that machinery. But when I started building, I had management, training, enablement, and I had seen what really good looked like. So every company I went into, I wanted to make sure that the people that I hired, especially on the SDR front, had access to not just a playbook and then throw them in the deep end, but give them world-class and renowned trainers that could help them understand how to cold call, how to manage a territory, how to manage your day, week, month. So anyway, in every companies that I went to, I was the guy that wanted to make sure my SDRs got inspiration, training, and development. And it turns out that also creates stickiness. when you help someone's career and you mentor and coach them, they're going to stay with you a little bit longer. So that's been kind of a staple for me. And I got it right out of college because I really got to see what great looked like. And that really was the impetus for the Snowflake Sales Development Academy, which I had wanted to do my entire career, but no company had the means or resources or money. And I finally, at the very end of my career, got to do that.
I was going to ask the question, like, what is the Sistine Chapel? What was your masterpiece when it came to sales development, and why is it Snowflake? And I think you answered it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to, bring you and especially Craig back, I think 11 years ago. And Craig, you were the one that allowed me to post my my opus, my Jerry Maguire manifesto moment was when I had read John Miller's piece, Fishing with Spears. And he had kind of talked about account-based marketing, and I was reading all this really cool stuff he was putting out there, and I was getting pissed because my team at Cloudera was doing exactly what he was doing, right? Crafting messages, personalizing them, and doing one-to-many. And he was talking about marketing and marketing automation and marketing, account-based marketing. And so I decided to sit down with John and give him kind of a first draft of my account-based sales development. I kind of wanted, and he read it and he's like, Lars, I completely missed the sales aspect of this. And sales and marketing are already so siloed that I missed this. You have to publish this. And that's when I came to you, because the Funnelholic was just at its opus, at its pinnacle. And you let me post that. And that's really what, after that went global viral, and I became known as the architect and kind of the father of ABSD. That's when my brand, my career, opportunities, the idea for SalesSource all came. And it all came about because of sales engagement, right? The one technology that made SDRs some of the most relevant in any company.
Yeah.
Right? The pipeline that we were able to generate from an SDR team armed with sales engagement and, data providers and all the other things that have come on changed the direction of the SDR, and it catapulted us into prominence. And I'm proud to have a small piece in that. But Craig, your Funnelholic had the readership, and of course Max with his media company back then also, and Jason at SaaStr, they all picked it up and were very generous and, invited me on stage to talk about it.
Thank you for bringing up the Funnelholic. Not many people know about it. The only remnant of it right now is the Twitter handle or X handle or whatever, right? I think I'd have to go find some stuff. Those were fun days. It was early content. Can I just do one thing? I got to ask you since you're on. Is it true that Xerox used to train people on how to slide the pen across the table to get them to sign a contract?
Ooh.
No, it was more selling of the pen, but wasn't sliding the pen. But no, I mean, my onboarding, enablement, and training lasted 11 months at Xerox.
Smokes. Yeah. And
they sent me to different training centers. There was one in Chicago, one in Dallas, one in a very famous one in Leesburg, Virginia. And, from the ground up, I had to memorize a 17-page script on how to sell the 5052 copier. And I had to do it verbatim. It took me 2 months to, I mean, it was, this was, building from the ground up. Then they'd send you to Chicago to learn how to handle objections for 3 weeks. Then they'd send you to Dallas and you'd have to present. Then you'd go to Leesburg and you go through negotiation and closing training. I mean, this stuff can be taught. There was no one, today there are universities that have sales programs, but back then, if you wanted to learn how to sell, it was IBM and Xerox. I think the Valley has done a pretty poor job over the decades. I mean, Oracle definitely had something. I think Salesforce used to have an academy. I mean, they have an onboarding and enablement, but I think a lot of tech companies throw SDRs into their sales and marketing onboarding. and maybe then have the frontline leader give them a week on their own. But the other thing I'm super proud of is coming up with SDR operations enablement and training. So back at Cloudera, I had an SDR that just didn't quite fit, but he dug all the tech that we were implementing. And so I put him in as the team ops enablement and training guy. And it took so much pressure off the frontline leaders so they could be, what do you want a frontline SDR leader? You want them hiring and you want them coaching, to sit there and help them understand all the different technologies and motions and help them, adopt these playbooks takes a lot of time. And just taking that pressure off frontline leaders by having a dedicated function to SDR training. And that's also what led to, that's the team really that came up with the Snowflake Sales Development Academy. So we took the principles of what Xerox did, matched it up with the operators that were selecting the tech stack at Snowflake, and then building motions and playbooks and having as a part of their onboarding training. So it's a month-long onboarding dedicated to SDRs. We had Josh Braun, now we have Kevin Dorsey as trainers. And we've even taken that a step further and provided frontline sales development training for the leaders.
Sure.
Right? A lot of SDR leaders have never been formally trained on anything.
Yeah.
And so Kevin Dorsey now owns the leadership training for frontline SDR leaders at Snowflake, and that was a huge level up.
That's amazing. Can you imagine right now if Matt's at Duplo Cloud and he went to the board and said, you know what, guys, I learned a lot about Xerox training. We're gonna train people for 10 months. It's like that is in the Valley, there's plenty of people that don't get it, but there's plenty of people that do on the enablement side, but we don't have time.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just amazing, but you're doing the right thing. So the SDR Academy, you're in the seat, but you're in a continual learning motion.
Yeah.
And getting better and better at your job. And that's what's really cool. I want to dig back into that. Before I do, do you have any amazing Kevin Mosier stories?
I went to his wedding several months ago. He's on the East Coast. He's retired. I mean, I followed him to 3 or 4 different companies, right? He was the hard hammer Oracle guy, and I was the softer hammer Xerox guy. We at Xerox, love you. And it worked. It worked really well. And so I was his right-hand master sergeant through so many different companies, right? Portal, Wrapped, ArcSight. He was the one also who introduced me to the venture capital firm backing Riverbed, where I spent some time. Mm-hmm. He's still a really big part of my life.
Yeah, that guy was amazing, man. He was just that group in the Valley. I don't know that we have many of them anymore. That the Bobby Knight of sales leadership, there was a lot of them. I mean, but Kevin was famous, and I experienced it. And I think when people ask me, I'm like, well, look, he was loud and he was tough and relentless, and he wouldn't close his door if he was dressing you down, but he had probably the percentage of $1 million reps that guy had of reps is probably the highest I'd ever see. He's gonna, you can get through and you can parse through and figure out what you need to learn, and you're a rep with him, you're gonna make $1 million, and he was good, but he was tough.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that was the era of the artist, right? The enterprise class software rep that had to, seek out champions, test them, use them in their sales process in a multi-stakeholder consensus sell where there's, not just objection handling and qualification all along the way, but then you get into negotiation, and then you got to go through procurement, and you got to align your executives and maybe even board members. I mean, right, in all the product-led growth companies that are popping up, the transactions are not that big, and they don't last as long. So that's becoming a lost art. Snowflake, and interesting, I went from Cloudera, where I spent 4 or 5 years, to Snowflake, where I spent 4 or 5 years, selling the same thing, cloud data storage, right? A commodity, but two completely different ways of engaging with the customer. I mean, the sales cycles at Cloudera, were 12 to 18 months in many instances. And at Snowflake, you could download and get your 1,000 or 4,000 free credits and begin pointing data sources at an instance for free by yourself, and then self-upgrade and self-upsell, self-renew. So completely different, same technologies, different selling motions. And I look back at my time at Snowflake, and I mean, we built that team up to over 300 SDRs, and it was never a problem getting meetings. Yeah. I'm not going to say it was really, really easy, but we had the name, we had the tech, we had the all the motions, all the ABSD motions in play. I mean, easiest job I've ever had, and at the same time, fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So since we've sort of transitioned to how times have changed, then we'll go to question 2, which is, what's something that the market thinks, or some things that the market thinks they're doing right? Could be anything: approach, methodology, tactics, and they're actually wrong, and they should be thinking about it differently. So what are those things, and what should they be doing?
Well, I mean, everyone's talking about AI and how that plays into not just the SDR role, but just go to market in general, right? There's this new title called the GTM Engineer. And I have 2 of them that worked for me and with me. Kern Singh, you'll remember, Craig, and also Travis Henry. I mean, these are the guys that understood not just what technology to select, but then how to implement them and how to orchestrate them together into motions that tied in marketing and sales and customer success, and organize an elegant and very deliberate cold outreach. Those are, I think, the true artists today. And I think with one go-to-market engineer today, with a team of 5, 10, or 20 SDRs, that one role is going to make 5 SDRs punch like they're 25. And I think that's where the big story is. While everyone's, SDRs are dead and they're going to be replaced by these avatars and deepfake, that's going to happen. But the high energy, high output, high activity SDR is going to stay. I just think that Snowflake with 300 SDRs today, maybe in 2 years, they'll have 50. But each one will be able to punch above like they are 5 individuals because of all the automation. The other thing you have to be careful of is the best AEs at a company are SDRs that get promoted into those roles, right? 18, 24 months in, you fall in love with your company, the product, the people, I mean, it's an unbelievable training ground for your future sellers. And I would submit that at Snowflake, we were hiring 25 to 30 SDRs a quarter. And when we caught up to that, we're also now today putting into the Snowflake ecosystem 25 SDRs every quarter. Now, 80% of those are going into, field level quota carrying ISRs or SMB reps, but there's still 20%. So 5 to 8 of them decide they don't want to go into sales, and they're going into marketing, and they're going into operations, or going into partner roles. And whenever they did that at Snowflake, those leaders would come and say, Lars, I don't know where you found this person, but they're already doing 3x the work of my current members on the team, and they've never done the job before. So again, I think this high energy, high output, high activity persona that is the SDR, we have to try to keep them alive for demand gen, but they also are gonna, you just probably saw the news, our former CRO at Snowflake, Chris Degnan, right? He started as an SDR. A lot of the CROs today are they come from our background. And beating bushes, I mean, we said it back in the 80s, right? You got to beat the bushes, let the apples fall. We still got to do that. You're not going to automatically, whether you're using, doesn't matter all the tech in the world, at the end of the day, there's still hopefully going to be a conversation with the target prospect in with someone at your company. So, yeah.
It's amazing when I think about Snowflake and I think about how central the SDR role at Snowflake is to the Snowflake story, right? So Craig had Chris on stage at the Go-to-Market Summit last year, and he told a story about, hey, I joined the company as a first sales leader, and I spent the first, I can't remember if it was 18 or 24 months, just, calling people so that I could, put the product in front of them. And then it becomes this, and that's sort of how you guys got it off the ground and got the first couple of customers, how you had this great product feedback loop to develop the first version of the product. And then it becomes this massive growth driver for the organization. You enter the business, you build like the modern sales development academy, one the likes nobody had seen since Oracle had done it. And, you create this amazing machinery, not only for how you build pipeline, but how you sort of cultivate the next group of salespeople and marketers, to your point. And then, as the company's going public, there is an inclusion of the SDR role in sort of the deck to take the company out. And it's just this magical thing that sort of kind of permeates throughout the history of Snowflake. I can't help but be struck by that every time, you hear someone talk about the success of Snowflake. Yeah, this SDR position is a critical portion of both like the sort of genesis of the organization, the growth stage of the organization, and then what ultimately gave it the juice to take it out.
Well, you're bringing up an unbelievably important point, because something incredible happened in my first quarter when I joined Snowflake. And I joined on the heels of Nicolette Molinex building that global organization. So she's the one who started it, who grew it, who built it, and then handed me, a very tight package that I then used my ABSD playbooks, and we accelerated from there. But kudos to Nicolette. But what blew me away, so our CEO, Frank Slootman, who many people know in the Valley, he wrote this really cool book, Amp It Up. But 3 months into my tenure, he was famous for writing Frank's Monday Morning Message, which every week without fail he would get out. He dedicated one of those offerings to a shout out to the Snowflake SDR team. I don't even think he knew who I was at that point. We had not met. And he basically nailed everything about the role and the function. And he helped the company, right? At the time, there was maybe 4,000 people, understand how critical this role was, and to help and to get involved and to support. So when you have a CEO that not only understands the SDR role, but is now talking about it and, throwing respect its way. And I felt so supported, and the whole global team was just like, are you kidding me? We're going to run through walls. And, in the last 15 years, I've spent a lot of time consulting and helping companies build SDR teams. But what happened, most of the engagements were SDR team turnarounds. And Craig, you're going to remember this because you actually were a gun for hire 1099 to me in SalesSource, and you helped me do a deal at Blue Coat. You remember that? You were a 1099 for SalesSource, my brother. And the story that we got was they had tried to relaunch that team every year for 5 years and failed. And when I shared that with Craig, he's like, what are you charging? And I said, 50 grand. He said, if I charge him 100 grand, can I get half? And I'm like, absolutely. He went in one meeting, Craig, and I hope you remember this. You close them, and next thing I know, I'm just watching you wax poetic inside the team of Blue Coat, rebuilding that team from the ground up after a 5-year fail. And you can imagine, you build a team for a year, then you scrub it, then you build it over forget about the millions of dollars in hard costs to do that year after year, but just the soft costs and opportunity costs lost. So that was transformational for me, Craig, just how much the problem of building pipeline is. And if you can deploy an SDR team that is well hired, well trained, well developed, well coached, well managed, you can build a company like Snowflake and have them go public, and Cloudera, and Riverbed, and all these companies. And I think the very best companies in the Valley have grown on the back of a well-organized, orchestrated, and built SDR team.
Sure.
There's 98% of them that don't know what they're doing. Anyway.
I got it. So can I? So are they're go-to-market engineers? That's the new thing, right?
Yeah, it's not a RevOps or sales ops person. A go-to-market engineer is someone that likely comes out of an operations team, but they have also been super involved in helping sales and marketing select the technologies. And now with Clay and Pocus and all these other AI native tools that are coming out that allow you to stitch together not just the technology, but the motions, and you build automation paths. They're critical. And those are the ones that, with a go-to-market engineer on your budding SDR team, you don't have to, as the number gets bigger, you don't necessarily have to, put bodies on it. A go-to-market engineer can create efficiencies and effectiveness across entire marketing, sales, and SDR teams. And for those, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, finish.
The influencer, in my opinion, it used to be Craig Rosenberg at the Funnelholic, but there's a guy by the name of Brendan Short. He was also a 1099 for me at SalesSource. He's now the author of The Signal.
Yep.
And I think globally, he's definitely one to listen to, because he's pounding and punching through all these new technologies that are coming out. And he's kind of like the voice out there that a lot of people are listening to. Sure. After the Funnelholic came Pete Kazanji and Modern Sales Pros, and we all got a ton of best practices. Matt, you put out so many great things when you were at Everstring that we all read. There was the AISP, but today I'm following influencers that are very vocal about the technology and the motions that they're putting out there. And I think Brendan Short's one of the supreme leaders of that movement.
I totally agree with you. I think he's got like this wonderful blend of like art and science in terms of how he's thinking about like the future of sales development. And, some of it sounds a little scary, right? Like, especially to, people maybe, like us who have been used to like, hey, there's a certain set of tooling that goes along with this, and there's a process that we all follow, and we're perfecting that process. It's triple touch, and it's a 7x7, and it's this, that, and the other, and it's, flooded with enablement and supported by data and all this stuff. But some of the things that he's talking about are truly mind blowing. And, he's going into this sort of new space of all this new technology that people haven't really sort of uncorked all the value of. And he's demonstrating how to put it all together and turn it into a machine that becomes, to your point, this giant force multiplier. So if you're not following Brendan, you guys definitely should be following Brendan Short. Craig, I believe you have him on the BAT tour in Austin. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's my guy, man. I love that guy. He's high energy. Just what Matt's referring to. Oh, I'm going to do a Sam. I'll just butt in.
Yeah, please.
What the speaker is referring to. Now, I'm going to... in Austin next week, I threw together an impromptu go-to-market meetup on a boat, because I wanted to see my kids are going. I'm going with my kids. I wanted them to see the bats, and I'm like, I want to combine the two things. We'll get on a boat and we'll go watch the bats. And I got like Jason Vargas is coming. That's my guy too.
Yes.
Oh God, just such a legend.
Guy's huge. Yeah, for sure. Brandon Short. It's gonna be fun. Kathy Maki, who's an all-timer, by the way. Mm-hmm. So let's go back. So by the way, Sam, can you go GTM Engineer .ai if it's available. I doubt it is. We should buy it right now. Thank you, Lars.
Go down real quick.
Hey, all right. So let's do a couple things I want to dig in on. So one is, how do we replicate the Snowflake SDR Academy at a startup? Like, what would you do to do that, Lars? Any thoughts on that? I want to take, because you guys, look, at the end of the day, you guys know this. I mean, you said it up front. There's a difference between the resources Snowflake was willing to press against the operation that you had there, which, by the way, was incredible, versus someone else. But you all have always been, and clearly the focus of the show, the first thing you talked about was Xerox, was your enablement. So how do we do that for our 2-man SDR team growing to 5 at a startup? How do we replicate what you did?
Yeah, I don't know that individual companies can. I mean, startups need people that have been in the role they're hiring for and that come in with experience and knowledge and Rolodex and all of that. I don't know that you can, but if I was, I would, Matt over at Sassy Sales and John Barrow's training and Beck Holland. I mean, there's enough people out there that have content for SDRs. Beck Holland flipped the script, have some of the best stuff for individual contributor SDRs, and I send a lot of SDRs to her website. Now you've also, have you guys heard of this company Hyperbound?
No.
These two young Indian Atul, they have a kind of an avatar bot that you can cold call train with, and they're making a lot of noise, and they're getting into a lot of companies with this technology that allows you to practice your cold calling with live with a bot, and it's funny when they do these. You should check them out. They're making inroads. And it turns out cold calling has never been dead. It just goes through cycles. And I think the phone is relevant again. Social is relevant again. Sending is relevant. And you never know what is going to be the signal that someone trips over. So you got to keep trying it. So the answer to your question, Craig, is I don't know that a startup needs to dedicate time to figuring out how to create an academy for onesie, twosie hires, but you find influencers to follow. I'll often say, follow, Ralph Barcy. Go to Flip the Script. There's enough stuff out there. Morgan Ingram, Kevin Dorsey. I mean, they're out there all over the place. Read the Trish Bertuzzi's The Sales Development Handbook. Aaron Ross's book is still interestingly relevant because of the massive increases. Of course, it's not being, the go-to-market engineer is now taking over for the sales ops person. But so I don't know if that answers your question, Craig, but you can't build it for a small startup. You got to hire 2 SDRs, throw them in the deep end and see if they can build something.
Got it.
I think the one thing that I would recommend to anybody who's just in this, early stage starting zone is like, one of the things that I think Lars always touches on, maybe unconsciously touches on, is there is something that happens on a really successful BDR team where that group of young professionals becomes so loyal, engaged, enamored by your business that they will go to the end of the earth to make it happen. And there is, I used to say this all the time. There's these things that you can do for young BDRs or SDRs that cost your company absolutely nothing. And like they create this loyalty and this inspiration for this group that like it's almost immeasurable. So when he talks about like a note that came from Frank Slootman, right? Like, CEO, send a note that says like, hey, here's the reason why we have this SDR team. This is the work that they're doing. This is what, this is exemplary work, however you want to do it. Like if you're a BDR manager and you just go to your CEO and go, hey, this BDR absolutely crushed it. Look, they reached out to this person X amount of times. They booked the meeting. the AE had a fantastic first call. The sales architect came on. The deal went super smoothly. We closed this massive deal faster than we ever thought we could. And it all started with this, incredible drive and motivation by this SDR to get into this business. Like, that costs you nothing, but it creates this environment around the group where they're like, yeah, we're getting recognized by the CEO. I'm not just like, fresh out of college, nobody in this organization. And the group that I'm in has real meaning. And when you can tie that group to like business outcomes in a way that feels very genuine, that goes a long way. It's
such an important point you make, Matt. I could not agree more. The other thing that I advocate that all SDR leaders should do, and I don't think a lot of them do it, is find time at the end of the week or the month to poll their team. What did they learn this week, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of any given week at Snowflake, with 300 plus SDRs, we had tens of thousands of touch points, right? Whether they were calls or whether they were emails or social or, opens. And we're talking to more prospects, more customers than anyone in the company combined on a daily basis. And I think it's the mature SDR leader is going to capture that in a recurring communication that they send up the chain that hopefully makes it to the executive leadership team roundtable. Yeah. And I think SDR leaders can have a bigger impact by sharing what their team is seeing on the front lines daily, weekly, monthly. And they just don't have the time because they're doing so much. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I think is lost on a lot of companies is career path. Mm-hmm. The reason why SDRs stay at Snowflake is not only is there a career path within their own role of SDR, but there's also continuing onboarding, enablement, and training that they can opt into if they want to go into sales. So at 6 or 9 months, if they want to learn more about the product, more about how to negotiate, the kind of pricing structures that we offer, consumption, they can do that as a signal to outside sales. Hey, we're building a bench for you. Come take a look and also participate in, because we need teachers for these classes. Yeah. And we also have an SMB team for SDRs to go to. I mean, Craig, the big problem in tech is that the leap from SDR to quota-carrying sales rep in most companies is way too long and far, and they don't have a role. And so for a lot of these younger companies, the SDR, after a year and a half or a year, they're burnt out and they haven't learned how to negotiate anything, and so they have to leave. So I think it's also incumbent upon the startup, if they're going to start an SDR team, what are we going to have them grow into? And we need to start thinking about that right out of the gate.
Did the SDR Academy you built train them to be sales reps as well as train them to be SDRs?
Yes.
Were you preparing them for the future?
Yeah, the Academy is broken up into 3 different levels. There's the onboarding, enablement, and training of SDRs, which they go through their first month while they, before they take their territory in their first month. And then at 6 or 9, and then at 12 and 15 months, there's Snowbound is one of the, and Snow Track are these 2 kind of offshoot enablement programs for current SDRs wanting to go into sales and signaling to everyone that, yep, I'm willing to do double duty here, do my job, and begin to read on the outside and do classes, outside of hardcore working hours to pick up those skills. So yes, the Snowflake Sales Development Academy follows you for your entire tenure as an SDR.
Gotcha. That's cool, man. I knew about it. I spoke, I think, once or twice at it. I didn't get the full scope of what you guys were doing there. That's awesome. I would just say this. Forget the academy. You can do a lot of you can still think of the growth of the SDR in a life cycle. You can still map out the things that they should be learning along the way. You won't always be able to deliver it in a academy-like fashion. You can do, there's hacks like you were talking about, which is like, well, look, if we're trying to I mean, I think Beck Holland actually, her methodology extends way into sales, so that might be a good one. But you'd still want them to say, look, like in a month, we want you to be effective on the phone and via email, right? And at month 6, let's start prepping you, because especially, by the way, if you're just building the SDR team, those will, as you guys just said, those guys are the future of the company. They always are, and the heartbeat of the company. So you can still take a lot of the tenets that you did. You would do it in a different way, but like I like what you said before, which is like, well, you don't have to do it yourself either. You do want to tell them, you know, where to go, where to fish, and go look for this information, and certainly where it should happen along their life cycle. But I mean, I think we could take the things you just said and recommend that for anybody. And by the way, I keep talking about startups just because that's my life. But like, even if you had a team of 12, you know, oftentimes we'll see a team of 12 and enablement is still lacking. They still probably aren't at the level that you were at to be able to build a formal academy, but they could still take the things you just said and still have, you know, a really effective way of not just onboarding the SDRs and making them better, but getting them ready to be AEs. All right, I want to bring up one other thing. I love AI role play. I freaking love it because, dude, like right now, as Lars said, the phone is back. So now we have to train kids who literally don't. Oh my God, was that me, Sam? How did that happen? I'm hiding all my calendars. Oh, there's one. That sneaky little bastard got in there. Okay, so it just rang in my ear. God damn it.
We didn't hear it. We didn't hear it.
Oh, you didn't hear it? So I'm just talking to myself, you know. Hey,
That's right.
Little bit.
But so even now, but I asked Gottlieb, I'm like, hey man, if you had to buy 2 things, he's like, of dialing automation and a role-playing AI. He's like, if you had to just do one, he's like, because the phone's back, and those are real products that you can use. You know, you can use the AI dialer to be able to go and be faster, quicker, and more effective in terms of getting to people. But then we're in a new era of being able to train people to talk. And by the way, they need a lot of training. This is not I'm not an old man insulting, but like, you know, they didn't talk on the phone like we did. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we'd do like the hot connects, we'd do like party lines, we'd like be talking like my mom would be yelling, get off the phone because you're talking to girls until whatever. It's like we talked a lot. Now it's not as much, it's a lot digital. So now we have an extra layer of training and we could do it. Because I hated role playing. I knew how valuable it was, but as a manager, my God, I had to pretend to be someone and be like, hey, Craig, this is so-and-so. Hi, how you doing? No, we don't want any. You know, how did they react to the objections? Now there's these things like Second Nature, Hyperbound, all these things are amazing. And you can put them to the test. By the way, Albro's kid just got, his first SDR job. And he was going through the process. He was telling me, it's like, a lot of the folks hiring SDRs make them do the role play as part of the AI role play as part of the interview process. This is a breakthrough. This is huge. It's great.
Albro's kid is an SDR. My daughter just got a job as an SDR. She just graduated. So the next generation.
They're coming. But yeah, don't you guys think? I mean, it's like, I remember role playing so valuable. It was so cringy. And now we can have them do this and like these role-playing apps, you can do multiple persona types.
Yeah.
And they can practice, and they don't have to practice in front of a bunch of people. They can do it, on their own. I think it's epic. I think it's great. So that's my other comment on that as you guys were talking through those, and Lars had mentioned that. That's just like it's a great thing for the world and the business world. I mean, like I'm just wondering, like the way just being able to communicate with people, whether everyone's going to be doing role plays. This is how you talk to other human beings.
Well, what's great about what the guys of Hyperbound, you can do competitions, in-team competitions. They're going out now to sales kickoffs and doing onboarding and like getting the CEO up there to interact with the cold call bot. And you can have a lot of fun with this technology. But, what you just said, Craig, you can do this in the comfort of your own home. No one has to hear you fail 10 times before you get it right. And you work on your narrative and your opening. And, eventually your personality is going to come out, because that's, in my opinion, cold calling has way more to do with personality and just, getting someone to, who actually picks up the phone, sit back for a couple of seconds and just, and personality has to come out. And, a 22-year-old SDR that just graduated, doesn't matter what they did in the background, is not going to have the confidence. And so I think tools like Hyperbound help that in a big way.
Yeah. You know what we should do is we should have Sam at one of the shows. We're going to have Sam go up against AI avatar and just see if he can get a meeting. What do you think of that? I mean, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
We'll film it.
Scott Barker actually did something very similar on his podcast with Avara. That's another one of those Hyperbound AI role-playing tools, and he was trying to book a podcast recording with the AI
he did it on the show?
Yeah, it was
but
pretty funny.
He's a really good SDR sales leader type. You're one of those young guys who has trouble talking.
Whoa!
So we'll put.
I sold. Excuse me. I sold AT&T plans for 3 weeks inside of Costco. Okay, and I was a top 3 rep in that span. So
in 3 weeks, dude. All
yes.
right, this guy needs you need an avatar. That's for sure. The other thing on the cool
Bring
thing,
it on.
The cool things on the avatar, we have a company in the portfolio, Tavis, and they do. It's really fast. You can create your own avatar. So we're going to start doing. We have our summit coming up. We're going to have Maria. We're going to create an avatar of Maria, and she's not only can she go out and talk about the summit right as a demand gen thing. They can ask questions of the avatar, so it's like they're talking to her. I'm down with what's happening. It's the app I'm talking about is wide range. I mean, you could use it for any. I mean, they're building into. It's really a developer app that you can build into any product. The others that are taking that technology and turning them into SDRs, AEs, et cetera. I'll tell you this: the first one to go will be the inbound leads.
Oh yeah.
Where if you could put a avatar against that, because people, it's right now it's a weird experience, and most of the time it's just a kid sifting through, the various leads that come in and then doing a pretty templatized follow up. Mm-hmm. Now someone doesn't have to fill out the form. You would have an avatar sort of talk to them and greet them, because this is the thing I just keep grappling with. It's I don't know. I've brought it up before, Matt. I think you've ignored it because it doesn't make any sense what I'm saying.
Probably.
Probably. I'll have to do a avatar training. Is that for 20 years, we've talked about since serious decisions, buyers are X down the buying cycle before they want to deal with sales. Mm-hmm. Yet we keep trying to push humans at them the whole time. It's ironic. Everyone, I have these folks that bring up the 60% or whatever the number is down the buying cycle. All these pitches I remember the years being an analyst, and they'd be like, and here's how we get the human in. It's well, if you believe the 60%, that means they don't want to talk to a human. And they'd rather not have that pressure. So why wouldn't we serve that versus try to twist them into meeting with a human? Now's the time. We've got the AI, we've got these things that can go do it. I think what we'll see is the folks on their initial descent into your website or whatever, that's having something that's not a person that's going to ask them to follow up and put something on the calendar and just answer their questions and give them what they need, I think is a really good use case there. But
sure.
What do I know? You're not ignoring me on that one, Matt.
No,
Thank you.
I'm going to not ignore it.
Lars is
I'm
too
just going
good
to
of
give
a
you
guy. He's going to give you credit for it anyway.
I'm going to give you the sure. Sure.
So Lars, what do you think if you had to make one prediction about the world of SDR over the next year? No, you can't have 2 or 5 years. I'm talking in 1 year. Things are moving so fast. Tell us what we should be looking out for.
I mean, when you leave the playing field, you become irrelevant pretty quickly. But, when I follow guys like Brendan and I get into conversations with founders within the True Ventures portfolio, which I'm still advising for, one of the things that blew me away at our last meetup at True Ventures is founders who are in the middle of founder-led sales are downloading, right? Because you can download a lot of this stuff, and they're using Clay, and they're generating operations, and they're generating pipeline and revenue all by themselves by using this technology. Before, a founder would be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to hire a Craig or a Lars and have them come in and build my operation. Now they're doing it because they're interested, and it's more of a technology play, right? The science has now come towards the product engineering, design-oriented founder, and they're not afraid. I still use your tagline, the content is king, Craig. I mean, without inspiration and education that someone can read or watch or listen, no one's going to know you're out there. So you still need to have an unbelievable content game. You have to read stories about how people used your product and got value from it before you get SDRs and AEs and marketers. And so what I always tell these founders is go spend money on a really good product marketer that knows how to write or produce or has access to agencies where they've done it before, and then put it out there and let people trip over it, let people read and engage, and let that become your inbound that you then put motions behind. And there are founders that are doing all of that on their own and they're doing it in days, right? They're not taking weeks, months, or years to build this out. So I'm really encouraged by today's founders that are not afraid to start their own go-to-market all by themselves because they can.
Yeah. I love it when that happens, just because entering into a business, because, usually I'm joining a startup as it's getting to the point where it wants like a marketing leader. And when you're starting from a stop, which is like, hey, we don't really know what our go-to-market strategy should be. And, we don't see any signal that it should be here, there, or somewhere else. It's so hard. It is so hard to spend your first year as a marketing leader trying to invent the go-to-market process. And if there's just even a little bit of like, oh, we kill it at events, or we kill it with this webinar series, or we're crushing it with these customer success stories, like just having something to anchor onto that they can then build a go-to-market strategy around, it's so much more helpful. So, for founders who are thinking, should I do this? Should I not? Should I wait until the sales leader comes, or should I wait until the marketing leader comes? Don't wait.
Yeah. Evan Lang, founder of Lean Data, did something just so out of the box brilliant when he started. He hired a retired beat report writer for the San Jose Mercury News. This guy's, remember Mark Emmons?
Yeah.
And all he did, and again, he wasn't even on the technology beat. He was like the Sunday wine and section. And every time they brought in a new customer, anytime they created a new partnership, anytime they did a new version release, he would write a story about it. And it was more human interest, but every day, every week, he was writing. And he'd follow Evan to anywhere he went, and he'd have a camera, and he'd have a Bluetooth speaker, and catch Evan in conversations at SaaStr, at Dreamforce. And everything they just got used to producing content, and they had so much of different form factors. And I think founders today, I don't think they understand and recognize, or if they do, they're not doing enough to produce the kind of content that people want to get inspired and learn from. Anyway.
Love it.
All right. Well, hopefully this is some good content for everyone. Lars, thank you. And it's been great to see you, and it's been great having this conversation. And so congrats on your career, man. Amazing career, and thanks for coming on the transaction. Appreciate
Absolutely. Well, you're one of my oldest friends in the Valley, Craig, and we've stayed together the whole time, and I've appreciated your support and your energy. And Matt, great to see you on here. You've been someone that a lot of us have followed, and you're outspoken, and everything you put out there is gold. So in my opinion, anyway.
Thank you. Well, your opinion's the only opinion that matters to me.
That's right. Here we go. Let's go. All right, fellas. Good work.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.